Hey, and welcome to Tax Tuesday with the Tax Queen. My name is Heather Ryan, and I serve digital nomads and RVers running businesses and working remotely from the road. And yeah, so in this, I usually will answer questions that have been submitted ahead of time. If we have some time and you're joining me live, you can always ask questions once I'm through all of the pre-submitted. And yeah, if you are here joining me live, I would love to know where you're joining me from since I'm a traveler as well. I like to see where everyone is. So if you wanted to just leave a comment, that would be great. And just confirm that you can hear me would be awesome. I just like to know all the stuff. Otherwise, I'm gonna jump ahead and go in with the questions. I did get several ahead of time, and we're just gonna dive on in. So the first question, what is a checklist of tax to-do items for a new small business owner, and what are the best practices to get started on the right tax foot? For example, when do I start paying quarterly taxes, and where's a good guide? Um, so I don't really have any specific checklists or anything like that. I work with my clients kind of one-on-one to give to-do lists because it is kind of individual. My biggest thing for new business owners, if you're just getting started, is just tracking everything. So tracking all your expenses, tracking income once you start making it, which hopefully we're all making income, right? That's the point of our business. And doing all of that, that's the most important aspect. And then working with a tax advisor to help you with your quarterly payments if it's your first time having to do that and work on that. That's my suggestion. And then I do have this list of kind of common tax deductions for small business owners. So if that might help knowing what to track. And I see a couple of people shared. So Tucson, Arizona. I love Tucson. It's a great, we spend a lot of time usually in the winter there. It's a great winter place. And San Angelo, Texas. I'm actually not familiar with where that is. So cool. Welcome. So yeah, so if you're a new business owner, that's my suggestion. Bookkeeping and just tracking all your expenses and income is the most important thing. And then from there, you can kind of figure out taxes and work. I suggest working with an advisor as a new small business owner. There are some self-employment tools and things I think on the IRS website. But yeah, my biggest suggestion is just working with an advisor. So yeah. And while working part-time, what exactly are considered an expense as far as calculating quarterly tax payments? So this kind of piggybacks on the last question. Again, uh, it's it doesn't matter about part-time, full-time. If you have a business, track your expenses, track your income, and then know what that net profit. So that's what we're looking for, the net profit, or sometimes called the net income. Like people use those interchangeably. That's fine, but the net profit is what you're going to be paying your quarterly, taxes on. And quarterly payments, they're not filings, which I sometimes get confusion over. They are just payments. So the US system, right, is a pay as you earn or pay as you go. When you're a W-2 employee, that's happening automatically with your paycheck. When you're self-employed with your own business, you have to stay on top of that. And that's why we pay in on a quarterly basis. So it's just making estimated payments on that quarterly basis. I have some clients that like to just do it monthly, and that's fine. The IRS does not have an issue with that, and they just budget it as they earn each month. They budget and they pay in on a monthly basis, and they're still meeting that quarterly obligation. So it's up to you how you want to handle it and what works best for your individual business. And that's why it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. So I hope that makes sense. The next question, if one spouse collects Social Security, will we file married filing separately, or does it make a difference? Doesn't make a difference. Married filing jointly is usually my suggestion when you are married. Social Security, retirement, business, W-2, it doesn't matter. You would still file jointly. So you're still married filing jointly, you're sharing a return, you're sharing all of that information for both of you. So no impact whatsoever. Um, let's see. I'm nervous to pay the IRS right now, while everyone's on furlough. Will my payments get lost? So this is a very relevant question, right? With the government being shut down, IRS is pretty much closed. I know filings were accepted, but that's because there's computer doing the acceptance, and even can do direct deposits, and it's all computerized at this point. Computer will also flag things, so that's why we know when something gets questioned, right? It's being flagged, so a person will look at it. So that is definitely being delayed. As far as making estimated payments, I would have no issues with that. I suggest all of my clients make estimated payments online. So you only pay online. You can log into your IRS account directly so you know it's being applied to the right account. And you can pick the year, the reason why you're making a payment. It will show up on there that you've made a payment. So it's very clear. Always take screenshots or print PDFs if you want. That's my suggestion, to keep your records. So it's not just from the bank, but they'll usually give you like a number that you submitted a payment, or it will show on your account pretty much immediately if you make payments. You can also go schedule payments out on there. So for someone making quarterly estimated payments, you can just schedule out the year or a couple payments if you wanted, and that's fine. So I'm not worried about things getting lost. Unfortunately, you know, I don't control the government shutdown. So, yeah. Next question. What is happening for 2025 regarding K1, so 1099Ks? And will payment processors like Stripe, Venmo, PayPal, etc., still be required to issue them? The answer to this is absolutely yes. So if you're not familiar, a 1099K is a payment processor saying this business received X amount of dollars during a tax year. So if it's Stripe, and it will say the business name, and it will say, a lot of them break it down by month, but you don't really need that. A 1099K is really for the government. It's not really for the business owner. I usually disregard business 1099Ks. It's good, like as far as a tax perspective, I don't really need to see it. It's good for the business owner though, because they can compare their 1099K to their revenue or income that shows on their profit and loss, and they can make sure that they match, or maybe the 1090K could be a little less because they accept payments for different methods. So maybe you use Stripe, but then you also might collect some like on some cash or a check or something that you're depositing. So your income might be a little bit higher. So as long as your income that you're reporting is equal to or above the 1099K, then you're golden. The thresholds are the 20,000. So you have to have 20,000 of processing, or 200 transactions. So you have to have both. So 200 transactions, $20,000 in order to get a 1099K, which is why to me it's kind of irrelevant. You should be reporting all of your income no matter what. It's really just a tool to kind of catch, hey, is there an error somewhere? Am I missing some numbers that I didn't record income because the 1090K is showing more, or vice versa? So that's really what I use it as a guide or a tool. It's not reported on a tax return at all. So I hope that's helpful. So this is the last question that I did receive. And if anyone here is live, you're welcome to put any live questions in the chat. I'm happy to extend my time a little bit if there's some live things to go over. So the last question, we use an RV as our home plus office area while we are gate guarding. Are there tax advantages we can use, and would it be better to be an LLC? So, a couple of things. Let's start as far as gate guarding. There's no such thing as a home office. Honestly, in an RV, I pretty much say never take a home office. The only exceptions I see would be a toy hauler, a bunkhouse, where's that separation, right? That has a computer, that has an office, a desk, a space. It could be an artist studio, maybe I've seen like in the garage, but it really has to be 100% business use. And so that's why I always bring that up, because in an RV, there's very rarely a space that is 100% dedicated to something, right? Okay, our refrigerator, 100% dedicated to keeping our food cold. But other than that, a tables, desks, chairs, like I feel like a lot of it is multi-purpose, right? So we can eat our dinner at the table, we might be doing our work at the table, we might read our book, so there's not a separated space that would be 100% dedicated to an office. So I very rarely suggest taking home office for an RV. The other thing when you think about it is, what do you have, 10 feet? I mean, that's a $50 deduction to reducing your income $50. I mean, maybe you're going to save $5 on taxes. So it's, to me, a red flag to have such a tiny space like that. And it's just not worth the $5 a risk. So I would say generally no home office. And that's the first part to that. And then the second part is kind of going over LLC stuff. And I want to reiterate, because I feel like I get this question all the time or very often. And I'm adding a link here as well. So an LLC is a legal entity filed with the state or formed with the state, not a taxable one. So we have to think about that. And LLC does not offer tax savings. It's not some magical benefit. LLC is a legal entity, limited liability company is what it stands for. So again, LLC is a legal entity, not a taxable one. And these are what we have to differentiate. So the LLC is not going to offer any kind of benefit. I would also never recommend putting a RV or a vehicle in general into an LLC. It doesn't offer any benefit as far as taxes are concerned. It actually might confuse things and make it more challenging. When your LLC owns your RV, you now have a commercial RV. You need commercial insurance. You might have to stop at DOT stops because you're now a commercial vehicle, not a residential or personal vehicle. So I don't ever recommend doing that. I don't see the benefit at all. There's no tax benefit. Yeah. So again, LLC, legal entity, and then I just shared a link. It kind of offers the different kinds of business entities and what they mean and what they do for tax purposes, right? So we have our legal side and our tax side. So the LLC itself, again, legal entity, not really a taxable thing. Taxable entities would be your sole proprietor, would be a partnership, would be an S corporation, could be a C corporation. So that's what we're looking at as far as taxable entities. If you ask the question, well, I have an LLC, how does that help? A single member, solo owned LLC is a sole proprietor for tax purposes. So it doesn't help, it doesn't add any benefit. If you have two people or more, so 2, 3, whatever, however many people, you have by default a partnership. So that could be, you and your spouse. It could be you and a friend, you and 3 friends form an LLC. You're a partnership. So yeah, just keep that in mind. LLC is not the magical entity. It's a legal thing. It's trying to create some legal separation. So there you have it. Those are all the questions that I got previous to going live today. If anyone is here and wants to drop a question in, I can stick around for a couple more minutes. If I don't hear anything, I will sign off. Let me just pull up my calendar because I failed to put the next one down. So the next Tax Tuesday will be December 2nd, 2025. And if you want to put that on your calendars, I will see you on December 2nd. If you come up with questions between now and then, feel free to submit them and online, and they will be answered first. That's the first order of business. And I'll just share that link one more time so you guys can add any questions in there if you get them. And otherwise, have a great November. Have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy fall. I think probably Texas and Arizona, you're still pretty hot, but hopefully it's starting to cool down a little bit. And yeah, have a great month, and I'll see you in December.